So, Chris, was your mind blown?
Blown, just actually here, straight up confession I'm gonna make. That 8th episode of WandaVision, I was getting, like, teared up, and I was, like, looking around, I was like, "But nobody better see me watching, like, a Marvel TV show and getting choked up from the character building we're getting from this." Is like, "Don't judge me, world."
Oh, I don't think that was ever in question.
Very enjoyable show, very creative. I'd like to give a shout out to Legion for making weird
Right,
superhero stuff. Legion went out there and got like way too
for
weird
sure.
for
Yeah.
superhero stuff, so that WandaVision here could really fly and do
Yep,
its Marvel
yep.
thing. I do have a couple problems with it. We'll get into that a little later because I don't
Yeah.
think it takes away from how good the show is. I think it's very enjoyable for all ages. It really hits its marks. I don't think it missed many beats. It just kind of has that Marvel sheen over it, which is that
Ex
same
Right.
old. It's kind of an old complaint at this point, but it's still a I think a valid complaint that it's just things get a little too polished. Your ending there is like a typical third act of a Marvel anything. It's a lot of
Sure.
CGI fighting, a lot of
Right,
stuff. You're
right,
like,
right, but
"Oh,
at least
okay, it got less smart." But it was really smart up until that point, and it really felt
and
like a payoff, not a cop out.
This is our home.
Then let's fight for it.
yeah, I know what you mean that, like, it still kind of ended with this whole, Vision versus Vision laser battle and Wanda, Agatha, and all that, but what I do appreciate is they still the sort of resolution itself of each battle was about, one character having sort of either a knowledge or perspective over the other, and that let them beat them. It wasn't just like, "I'm gonna pound you into submission with, brute strength or something." It was sort of similar to I actually, like, loved the same ending that they did in Doctor Strange, where it was like, I'm just going to annoy you to death. So I at least appreciated that they did something a little more interesting, a little more creative when it came down to it. But you're totally right. I was thinking the same thing while they were battling, and I was like, okay, okay, it's a typical Marvel. But then at least they give you a little bit something extra.
Yeah, because they were really doing good with that kind of X Files
Oh
mystique.
yeah,
Very, again, Marvel version of an X Files thing, but I appreciated it. It was fun and
yeah.
clever.
Well, I assure you, I'm married to a man, a human one.
I think it was really smart for them to do the multi-episode release because I think the pilot episode is not a strong enough episode on its own, but it's a great episode as a 1-2 punch with the next
Right,
episode because it was kind of like,
right,
well, it's the Dick Van Dyke Show. Like
right,
it's a
right.
dated sitcom for a reason. I thought the pilot was like interesting, but not really until the end.
I thought the show, knowing nothing about WandaVision, the comic, was going to be a little more alternate reality that Wanda's created, and it wasn't going to go that much deeper than that. But it really did. It really went a lot further, and the payoff was huge and amazing. And that second to last episode, oh my gosh, what we learned about like Wanda's grief and like the sitcoms. I just thought it was a silly little visual motif that's like, oh, funny to have two people be in historical sitcoms. Oh my gosh, it's like her heartache and wanting to go back to a simpler time when her family was safe and alive and was reminded of these sitcoms they used to watch bootlegs of. I was like practically bawling. Like that payoff alone, whatever other complaints I have, that payoff alone was just amazing and gave me so much from this character that like doesn't get as much screen time in the kind of Avengers movies and stuff, and you don't know as much about. And I was like, wow, well done, Marvel. Way to really make this matter.
These are characters that we're familiar with and we love, but we're seeing them in a totally new environment and in a new light.
Bear with me, but
Yeah, sure.
WandaVision is Bill Murray and Scrooged. He went into television and is a television executive because his dad was never around, his family was never around, so the TV shows are really his fondest memories are of
Hmm.
television and of episodes. And then that was taken to a ridiculous degree with the Cable Guy and Jim Carrey. That went to
Right,
like a psychotic place,
right,
which
right,
I
right.
love, but
Yeah,
whatever. No, I thought they did a great job kind of grounding this character and yeah, really bringing out more of her, getting more of her brother, who I recently rewatched Age of Ultron, which I only watched once. I thought it was
right,
fine and kind of moved on,
right.
but the brother was actually really cool. I liked him a lot, and so actually bringing him back was very satisfying. There's a bunch of stuff in this that are very satisfying if you have recently watched or are aware of what they're referencing in this
And
show. It's quite
let's
creative and good.
talk about that because that's one of the points where I'm like, that moment where they sort of bring back Pietro, and except for that it's not Pietro because it's really the X-Men version of the character, and it's this whole weird thing that was like fascinating in the moment it happened. I watched it the day it came out, and it's suddenly you're like, what just happened? Evan Peters is in MCU, but he's playing her brother now. What does this mean? Is this multiverse? Is this whatever? It was fascinating until the finale, is like, oh no, it's just Greg Boner or whatever. Like they literally Alex Boner or whatever. And I was like,
I
oh, and
think
then we're just
Ralph
gonna make it
Boner.
Ralph Boner, and it's like
It's like,
just gonna make a dick joke with the. I was so excited for what this, because it, like, to me, did this break the MCU? Like, we're bringing in X-Men continuity to the MCU and bringing back her
Quicksilver or
brother,
whatever.
and then it's like, no, 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 it was just a fake out. And I was like, oh, you just cast Evan Peters as a complete fake out. I was like, I just felt a little cheated at the end because it was clearly they just did it for sort of the attention. Internet chatter around it, and it was huge. It worked. It did what it was supposed to do, but just at the end, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like,
I just assumed that's all it was, so I
yeah,
wasn't reading any more into it, so I was fine. But I can see how you were like, that's what they do. They riddle
right.
these shows and
Yep.
movies full
Yep.
of Easter eggs and
Yep.
like what's
Possibilities.
coming. Yeah, what's could
Right.
possibly happen later.
Mom, are you coming down soon? Mom, our game is freaking out.
It's all mental stuff, sort of, and she can materialize with her telekinesis and all that, but it gets a little loosey goosey with like, okay, so what is Vision? What is he made out of? These
Yeah.
kids? And I understand it's very emotional for her. I love that character, so it was sold for me, but it's like, you've been in here like a week, maybe a month, but it was a short period of time. It wasn't like they were there for a year or
Yeah.
more. In the Avengers movies, Wanda is trying to kind of atone for a radical life
Yeah.
before, and
Right.
her involvement with Hydra. It just kind of read to me like, is she really gonna torture these people? Like, she clearly became
Yeah.
sentient of it early on in the show. I thought she was going to be more subconsciously, like more subdued consciously, and her subconscious was doing this. I thought that was going to be more, but she was actually much more sentient. It was like, really, Wanda would do that? But I understand her grief. It didn't ruin
It,
the show for me, but it was like, okay, I'll go
it's
with it, and the show's fun and it works. But it's a big leap because I literally just saw her really stressing out over helping people. Now she's
like I said, I've been
enslaving them?
doing. I've been
All right.
I think something's wrong here.
Should we just take it from the top?
Captain America Civil War, she kind of gets involved with, like, oops, I accidentally may have killed a bunch of people, because of my powers. It does feel very messy. It didn't bother me because
Mm-mm.
they don't let her off the hook. She's like walking away from the town, and all the people are like, oh my God, this powerful psychopath just kidnapped me for like a week or two and controlled my mind, and now is just leaving, and there's nothing I can do about it. FBI gonna try to do anything about this? Is like, yeah, she's now like one of the most powerful beings on the planet. Uh-oh.
Am I dead?
No. Why would you think that?
Because you are.
WandaVision does a very good job of landing what they need to land so that those kind of messy leaps in logic, like Wanda going from being upset in Civil War and Endgame wanting to help people to enslaving people, they sell that. They do a good job of
Yeah.
selling all of this.
In the last episode, you start to ask yourself, okay, she's getting her power kind of pulled out from her. How are, Vision and the kids still doing, using their powers? Like, I took it to be that she literally had created life. You know what I mean? That she created these beings because she has that much power. But at the same time, it's like, well, okay, they can only exist inside of the hex. Like, there's all these weird kind of rules you have to just kind of play out in your mind or just accept. But it was like, they're not projections of her powers or mind. They exist, but they only exist there. There's all these weird things you have to like, okay, I guess that's how it works.
But they did set rules, and I would say
Yeah,
for the
they did.
most part stuck to it. I just think
Totally.
like the weird emotional bond to like kids who were babies like 8 hours ago and
Right,
now they're
right.
10. You're just like,
And
okay, Wanda, you know better. Like, you're not you're not living in a subconscious dream state. You are, but you're conscious of it. So it's like
Right.
I don't know why she's forming such strong attachments.
I
But
I
I
mean,
do
I
because they said
but you do because yeah, because
she's
she's in
great.
such right, because she's in such a state of grief at that point that she's literally living her life as a sitcom because she can't deal with, like, because she's lost her brother, she lost her parents, she's lost Vision now, like, she's just and she keeps being sort of held accountable for not things that aren't 100% her fault, like her getting involved with Hydra. That was she was this radicalized teen in a war-torn country, and then she joins up with the Avengers, and then she's being blamed for their for
Civil War
shenanigans with
for their
yeah, for
literal
Civil War.
Civil War because
Like,
it's her
so
actions
it's
that sparks the whole thing.
yeah, yeah. So, like, I can understand, like, now what I'll say is I don't think this show would have worked as a movie. It needed to be a show that was spread out over multiple episodes to make it feel that much more kind of lived in. Because I know what you mean. You're right that it shouldn't work as well as it did, and it kind of did work, which is really a testament to how well done the show is, because it should be bonkers and baffling and all of that.
Each day I pray for evening just to be.
Matt Shackman. I'm a big fan of him. Pretty sure he's from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He is a well-known comedy director and made the leap with Game of Thrones. And much like the Russos, who took over for
Right.
Captain America, those funny men, they know their emotions. They know how to
Yeah.
make things work.
Easier to take a comedian and, like, teach them how to do action and all of that than it is to take somebody who just does action, Zack Snyder, and try to get them to expand beyond anything more than that.
I loved the episodes. I love the style of them. I mean, dealing with a lot of, like, different sets, different looks, 50s, 60s,
Different
70s,
tones.
80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard. They're shooting these things on really nice 4K, whatever, digital cameras now, and they're trying to make it look like it's in the 80s and the 70s
Yeah.
and
They
stuff. But
sold it really well.
yeah, they do a good job. And the way it was formatting, how the formatting would
Yep.
change.
Changed. Yeah.
Uh,
No, they did. I was clearly, these are people who really appreciated television history and were trying to really capture, different eras of it. And that part was some of the top stuff. Like, seeing each week what era, what television shows they were going to be doing an homage to, was so cool.
So I had your goons pick me up a sweet vintage TV, and when I plugged this bad boy in, voila, sound and picture.
Dinner is served.
The number one sitcom of the 90s was Friends or Seinfeld, but they had already done the 2 or 3 camera sitcom look with the 80s.
Right. It's like Malcolm in the Middle made sense. It's a show that's sort of set in the suburbs with this dysfunctional family, and they're the way that they were able to sort of the kids coming in and, like, sort of make everything work inside the story of the show and outside, like, in the sitcom worlds as well. Like, I thought it was clever. It was really well
Yeah, it
thought
was
out,
great.
really well written.
No, it was great. I was just like, I mean, technically it's like Friends or Seinfeld, but I get that they needed a different kind of show, the evolution of sitcom as well.
I don't think they ever set up that it was going to be the best, the number one show of each era. It was just like, this is whatever Wanda and her family were watching. And what I'd like to point out is clearly Wanda's family had great taste in sitcoms, because Malcolm in the Middle is the best sitcom of the 90s. So well played, Maximoff family. What we got, I thought they did very well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think my point is, I think they made the right choice. I think they
Yeah,
made the right
100%.
choices with that.
A whole day. Just to myself. That'll show me.
The acting is bar
Stellar.
none. It's some of the
Yeah.
best. What a standout, more for, I would say, Elizabeth Olsen than it is
Yeah.
for Paul Bettany. Though Paul Bettany's amazing,
Yeah,
and
it was great.
they both have great chemistry. They always have. I think she was just amazing. Her and, of course, Catherine Hahn.
Catherine Hahn.
Everyone's
Oh.
losing their goddamn minds over Catherine
Yeah.
Hahn, and she's. Hey, ever since I
rightfully
saw
so.
her in Step Brothers, I think she's been, like, one of the funniest ladies on the planet. So
Yeah. I love that they are leaving it open that her character could come back in some form. And the last episode, I love they had very clever episodes throughout, that kind of referenced whatever the, era and show was going to be, like, a very special episode, blah, blah, blah. And the last one was, series finale. I was like, is it? Clearly, the characters are going to show up in future Marvel projects. I think it's already pretty well known that Wanda is going to be in the next Doctor Strange movie. And we kind of got that little, thing at the end of the credits where, she's doing very Stephen Strange, like, astral
Yes.
projecting herself to study. After Endgame, I was sort of marveled out for a while, and I've enjoyed doing a rewatch. And now with WandaVision, I'm a little reinvigorated. Like I think I could get back onto, new Marvel stories, in cinematic and television form. I think I'm kind of like re-energized in a way, and thank you, WandaVision, for bringing me back in the fold.
Watching this felt refreshing. It didn't feel like a Marvel movie. It felt like it was
Yeah,
from them. It felt consistent,
right.
but it was an interesting approach, and that kind of makes like me a little more excited for Morbius, right? Isn't that
Yeah, yeah.
their Jared Leto
Jared
Dracula
Leto.
sort of thing?
Yep.
I am excited
With
for them to get a little strange with it, and
would you,
do something
with
different.
with
And this show
with
has
all that.
really, I think, set the right tone for them. I think it's shown them what they can do, and they should feel confident and go for it.
Is that?
It looks like her.
You move at the speed of sound, and I can make a pen float through the air.
This show I know has been a real big hit, for Disney Plus. I mean, they don't release numbers, but there's kind of all the little Nielsen stuff that still tries
A
to
lot of
track.
buzz. There's a lot of
Yeah, a lot of
timeline, a
chatter, a
lot of
lot of
stuff on
buzz.
my timeline.
Yep, Marvel, who is notoriously so like controlling of things, to at least loosen up a little bit with like WandaVision, with kind of a little weird, story to adapt. Like maybe we'll get more of this. Who knows? What I liked is that it didn't feel like the whole show was just a setup for other properties. Whereas Mandalorian season 2 kind of felt like that. It kind of felt like Daredevil season 2, where it's like we're just going to set up all these other spin-offs using this show. And I appreciate that they didn't go overboard on that. They're like, yep, there's these characters, they're going to show up in other things, but it never felt like it wasn't actually centered around the story they were trying to tell.
I 100% agree with you. And, while I loved seeing Luke Skywalker, and that was super fun, and then a little weird with the face, but
A little
mostly
weird.
fun and a good experience, it does feel like, wow, you had to pull Luke Skywalker out. Like, I feel
Yeah,
like WandaVision got it right with, like, Kat Dennings' character being a
right.
part. Like, that is
Just
the right character
yep,
level for your
yep.
TV show to tie it
Yeah,
in and maybe build it up to something much bigger where it's like, oh, well, now Chris Hemsworth has to show up as
right.
Thor in WandaVision because we're in season 4 and it's just people are going crazy for it,
Gotta. You're right.
Like that's kind of what you
Yeah,
want. You want to like bring it to a fever pitch where Luke Skywalker felt like it was like trying to maybe
right.
save something or keep something afloat. It felt like a really big swing, and clearly it worked for them. But
People, I mean, yeah,
yeah,
people
yeah.
chattered about it a lot.
Yeah, but it was
But
like, wow, that's the biggest swing is
right, where
pulling
do you
out
go from there?
Jedi
Yeah,
Luke. Yeah, where do
yeah.
you go from there, sort of thing. Where WandaVision has a wide open. They can go a lot of
Yeah.
directions, get a lot of
I
people involved.
I respect that they didn't have Nick Fury do a cameo. They also probably couldn't afford Sam Jackson because that man is just constantly making money. But yeah, like I like that they didn't have any crazy cameo. They even kind of like, hinted at it. Like Paul Bettany was making jokes that like, oh, I'm going to be acting across from an actor that I've always wanted to, whatever. And it was like, oh, it's Paul Bettany and Paul Bettany. Like I was like, oh, okay, clever, Paul Bettany. Well done. You go home to your beautiful wife Jennifer Connelly and you just be proud of yourself,
Oh, that's
Mister.
right. Your Jennifer Connelly thing.
He is Mr. Jennifer Connelly. Let's be
That's
clear about how
clearly,
his name is.
clearly.
Yeah, that's. Well, if you guys enjoyed our little ranting and ravings about WandaVision, you want to hear more of us talking about future Marvel shenanigans and other sci-fi nerdery, please like and subscribe, and we hope to hear from you again in the future.